out to be completely unreliable assholes.
Timbuktu.
Ryan.
Hey, good morning. Hello.
Good morning.
And good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening, or good middle of the night to you listening now, whatever it may be.
God, I hope somebody out there it's like 3 a.m. and they turned this on.
As they listen to episode 38 of Dismembering Horror.
Wow.
The podcast show where myself, Ryan McDuffie.
And myself, Tim Aslin.
Well, we talk about what worked for us, what did not work for us, and anything we found interesting or noteworthy about a horror film. Yeah, and this is just what we thought about it. This is supposed to spur your own opinion. We aim to be no authority on these things.
Life is subjective.
Yeah, life is subjective. And including what else is subjective is for you and me, it's fun to keep that dream alive of just have an excuse to watch a horror movie, just kind of, talk about it. And if you don't have someone to immediately talk to, hey, we're here for you.
You've got us.
Yeah.
Come on in.
Join us for Satan Slaves.
The well water is really warm.
And we hoped you watch the film as well, so you can especially join in the fun accordingly, as we just said. But hey, if not, and you still enjoy it, then...
Don't worry about it, because we're going to give you just the most concrete summary.
Actually, we haven't talked about our aim of the summary for a while.
The aim of the summary is to just sort of, give you, the listener, a sense of what we took away from our viewing of the movie. It's not necessarily like a strict plot by plot summary.
Well, and that can get especially fun, I think, when it's like, just, one of those movies where like, wait, what happened? What was that exact? Which is a unique appeal to the horror film.
Yep.
In a lot of ways. Great. So what's next?
I don't know. Do you want to?
Oh yeah. Well, we got some stuff actually I did want to check up on.
Okay, cool.
And I also hope that, if you're listening to this, even if it's I hope if you're listening to this not for the first time, no, I don't hope anything. I commend you because you're like me. I like to listen from start to finish on things, and for people like that, I like to give a sense of continuity, Tim. You know how
You mean like first episode to last episode?
Yeah, like how we refer to other movies we've watched and stuff. And what I'm getting at is a few episodes ago, we reviewed Paranormal Activity 3.
That's right.
And I gave my overview on all the Paranormal Activities I'd watched thus far.
Did you watch more?
Yes. I finally finished the Paranormal Activity series, Tim, and had to report back to you and our listeners.
Well.
So I watched... So next up after Paranormal Activity 4 was Paranormal Activity The Marked Ones.
Yep.
Now, I can say after 4, the films take a sharp decline.
Uh-oh.
So... It was kind of cool, The Marked Ones, how it switched up the setting. We had, like the Latino family, and it just felt like basically you're in LA, kind of. It was neat as a setting. But and how I said before, like how the sort of the Jason kill of the franchise, the thing that we look forward to is when it comes into night 1, night 2, and then stuff goes down. It didn't do that. It dropped that. It mixed up the formula. Dude. Which, I was kind of like, okay, it's a spin-off one, why not try something different?
Is it still sort of hanging on to the found footage
Yeah, so
thing?
it's all found footage. But it's just like this one, kind of sadly, because it was, the first sort of non-white family, if you don't count the Tokyo one, which I do recommend. These characters were just so dumb. They were like all the same person, where they were just the kind of people who were like, oh man, it's like as extreme and as crazy as stuff gets, they act like a bunch of jokers.
Maybe written by a non-Hispanic person.
Yeah, pretty sure. And just, aside from that, I don't know, Tim, it was lame. I'll admit, like when it got to be like an hour through, and I'm like, okay, this has got to be ending soon. It was still like 40 minutes left. I'm like, oh,
It's a bad feeling.
I started skipping ahead a bit and watching it fast forward, which I never do, Tim. Usually I'm such a completionist because I want to give things their due, but something about, not in my old age, but in my older age, I just have less patience for things.
No, well, time is, ticking away.
Right. But the fun part about like what brings me like why I do want to watch them, why it was the completionist still, is like I want to see their take on it, what their story is, how they connect it to the original. So this is kind of like a spin-off one where it was in the apartment building, a witch, one of the other people in like the witch sect cult was like one of the neighbors. So like she had some of their paraphernalia and kind of was like, oh yeah, that was so annoying. The kids, they kept like, after this woman was like, even if she wasn't a witch, they just kept harassing her like, oh, go up and knock on her door.
God.
And then it ended complete. We talk liberally. We consider everything a spoiler in the show too,
right?
Just so the movie ended with it connected to the original by like, it was kind of neat. They went to the house from, I think it was the end of the third one, when they go and stay with the grandma.
Oh, okay.
And it is that unique. They go there and it's like all it's like covered in leaves now and stuff, but there's still people there. And then he runs away, goes through a special door that leads him back in time to the event of the first one when she kills the husband. It started this whole thing, and we witnessed that.
It's always the fifth one when they introduce time travel.
Right. And then the next one, the ghost dimension, which they promised, like I read a little blurb from Jason Blum, was like, finally all your questions will be answered. Who is this? What is this? What does Toby look like? All this stuff, It's like, okay, great. So, but the conceit, I have to say, like if you're doing a seventh one, if you count Tokyo,
right?
It was kind of neat. It was this was back to like upper middle class white family who's on a house that was built on the grounds of the house that had burned down from their childhood.
Okay.
And somehow through that connection, they have the box of tapes from the 80s from Paranormal Activity 3, which we reviewed and liked, and a custom video camera that allows you to see the ghost dimension, is what we gather.
Oh, boy.
So it's like throughout it. So what was kind of neat about that is you had the moments where they're watching the old videotapes of the little girls, and it would like they'd interact with them in the present, like
whoa,
yeah, like as if they sort of watch someone go by or say something in a sort of way where they're alluding to like details within the house. That was kind of neat. But again, it was just really terrible. I don't know what to say so much about that. Oh yeah, I mean, it was just as far as like we'd see like, rather than things just moving on their own. So instead we see this black glooby like spirit blob thing that makes noises like every time it comes on screen. Totally obvious. It's like then they pause it and see a demon face and they're like, whoa, what is that? And they're still like pursuing things and getting into it like, I don't know, man. It's like, and then and this one was so frustrating. If I said before, it's annoying how it's like they don't just do what they're supposed to do. They don't just remember they're told again by priest. Remember, you want them to bring in the priest. They do that again, or an expert. He tells them, well, demons feed off your fear and attention, so don't do that. And then what do they do right after that? Give it its fear and attention.
So were all of your answers questioned?
All of my answers questioned? Wait. Yes, all the answers were questioned by me.
Great.
We see her like literally go through the wall rips open and she like walks through this thing. Oh man, it was so lame. Anyway, I wish.
I'm glad you put the effort in though.
Yeah. Do you?
I don't have to.
Right. I wish our listeners could ask me just if they wanted to hear one thing about it that I've watched it. Can you represent that, Tim? Any one thing you can ask that you want to know to just to make it worth it that I watched these films?
God. Oh my God. Is there anything worth asking?
Well, what are you curious
Shit.
about?
I don't know. Is the coven of witches? Are they witches or are they just Satan worshippers? Or what's the connection? Because that's always a little vague.
They seem
to me.
kind of both, but yes, what happens is we see from the videotapes that after the parents are out of the picture, they're dead or whatever, the kids are continued to be raised by like this ponytail dude who's friends with the grandmother. So it's like they're
never trust a dude with a ponytail.
Yeah. So it's like their upbringing, which then you wonder, okay, well, they never mentioned this guy before, whatever. But anyways, so it was like they were used deliberately by this sect or cult or whatever, you know.
But like it's never really
defined
defined what the cult is or
what
coven.
Did they say
or...
that? I don't know. Just some.
That's the thing that it feels a little bit to me like as we, even just in the one that we watched, there's a little bit of that sort of double mumbo jumbo type stuff where it's like you're kind of mixing. I don't know what do you even call that?
I'm trying to remember what their main big goal was or whatever, but I think it's whatever
ghosts,
we've learned
but
before.
it's also demons, but it's also witches, but it's a coven. And
right.
It's a little jumbled.
I don't know, but it was kind of, I guess the ending was kind of cool. It would have been way scary, again, kind of like what we mentioned before, just take the creepy sound effects out of it. And
what was the film? What was the filming conceit of these two?
The first of the two, the marked ones, was that these dudes just graduated from high school and like bought a camera at a pawn shop after already using a camera from something else. I don't know what happened from that camera. And then they also have actually it was kind of fun. They have a GoPro that they use.
Okay.
The best part of the movie was they sit on like a box or something and attach a GoPro to it and then slide down some concrete stairs, Jackass style.
Wow.
That was good. And then the next one, the ghost activity, ghost dimension, was just that it was Christmas and they had a daughter.
Okay.
So it was another one with a kid too. So it was just like they had the video camera up and going for that. And then once he finds the old video camera, he's fascinated by it and using it. And then they're like, oh, we better document this.
Wow.
The ending of Ghost Dimension, though, Tim, we do see, it was actually kind of cool because we saw without seeing Toby, which is like the demon presence that they're talking to the whole movie. And it does kind of look like the PlayStation Avatar from the fourth one, where we just see these like pair of white human legs that are just all kind of veiny. And then that's kind of all we see of them.
No thanks. Toby.
So today's film, Satan's Slaves.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Hey, look, I mean, to be honest, we're staying in this lane.
Yeah. Devil, worshippers.
Yeah.
We got a little hillbilly sidetrack, but with last week's wrong turn.
Yeah, but still.
All right. Well,
you can never get too much Satan, I think.
But we can't have too much Paranormal Activity, so
that's true.
Get on with it with Satan's Slaves. Here's the trailer.
Cool.
Ibu.
La ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah.
Uni sama Ian boleh pindah kamar gak? Dari luar jendela kelihatan areal perkuburan.
Di kuburan kan cuma ada orang mati. Orang mati nggak bahaya.
Kalau memang itu ibu, kita bilang sama dia supaya nggak ganggu kita lagi.
Tim, Tim, I've been talking enough today already. You got to give us the summary.
Okay. All right. Satan's Slaves is the tale of a... Oh, shit. Where are we?
Indonesia.
Okay. It's the tale of an Indonesian family who has sunk pretty much all of their money into care for their diseased mother, undefined sick mother, and God damn it. Let's see. So they what is the story? The story is the mother dies and they start getting their asses haunted by her? Question mark. But then we find out that there's something else going on. There's some deeper shit going on. That it potentially that mother, who was infertile, and this is according to her husband's mother, who lives with them as well, that she made a deal with a satanic cult of people, so that she could have a child. But the deal is that the cult will get the child that when it hits 7 years old, the last child born, whichever one that is, when it hits the age of 7, the cult gets it. So the mom keeps having kids every 6 years so that they can't get them. But then she gets sick, so she can't have another kid. So when she dies, the cult's like, yo, your last kid who's 6 years old and about to turn 7, we're going to come get it.
Yeah.
Which
isn't apparent from the beginning. That is
not at all.
That is what is actually happening.
Right.
And as you described it, you're right, super similar to Paranormal Activity movies.
Well, I mean, I think we said when we were doing that one, this must, because it's in like every movie that we can kind of rail off, off the top of our heads of this general theme. It's all this thing of like, you make a deal with Satan or the Satan cult and your kid gets taken. That's the deal. Mm-hmm. And there's some kind of slight twisty-turny as to like when they discover things in this one, they think it's one thing, but it turns out to be kind of another thing.
But like,
whatever.
as far as, what this movie actually looked like and felt like, what was happening though, it was in the 70s.
81.
81. Okay.
So yeah, it's got very much that 70s aesthetic though.
Right. And then what did it look like, Tim? What was happening? How did
it's a haunted house movie.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I mean, it's got other elements for sure.
It was sort of just like this mother who had died just kind of keeps popping up in ghost form with her bell. They keep hearing a bell. Mm-hmm. And then there's creepy cemetery stuff.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, they're sort of going off to someone who knew the mother and sort of getting some info.
They get a little expert-ish info. Yeah. I'm trying not to just review it.
Yeah. And it feels kind of also, I'd say, has a tinge of Poltergeist as far as a sort of family all in it together.
Yes. Yeah, there's a little bit of that.
That's sort of unique to the flavoring of it.
Yeah.
Well, how would we, if there's nothing else?
I'm trying to think, is there anything else that's really important to the story?
They're struggling. They're maybe having to sell the house anyways.
Definitely. There's a financial struggle. And there is this sort of like religious overtone of like, they've kind of as a family given up on God. Mm-hmm. So I think that's kind of important.
Yeah, definitely is trickled throughout that element.
Yeah. But yeah, that's it, I think.
So then how would you and I rate this film?
Well, unfortunately for me, I was a little jet lagged, and I don't think it actually affected what I think of the movie, but it was hard for me to like focus. Mm-hmm. But also that's a result of, I think, the nature of how this movie was made and what you're getting out of it. So I am borderline an avoid, but I think that there's stuff that's worthwhile.
Yeah.
So I'm a stream. It's on Shudder.
Yeah.
You know?
It was one of those films that seemed as hyped up way more than
Agreed.
well than worth it. Or
Yeah.
But I agree with stream it.
Yeah, there's definitely
For me,
moments.
this was like when only sort of after looking at what I have in my notes here, where it's like I definitely wasn't crazy about it, and it was just kind of stream it. There was enough. It was similar to how kind of when we reviewed Insidious 4, where I'm like, look at all these things that I put down in what worked for me, yet sort of what did not work for me can be encapsulated in a few points.
Right.
So this sort of for me was like I guess my summary or my review in summary would be, it was like, felt like one of the Conjuring Insidious movies, which Tim and I are not fans of, but at least for, a Westerner, had a different, interesting setting and had way more heart than those movies, I think.
Oh, sure.
But it definitely had the sort of just like, in the end, felt it just sort of all the problems of those movies at the same time.
Yeah. I agree with that.
But to accentuate the positive, should we get into what worked?
Yeah.
What worked for you? What worked for you?
It worked like a charm, Smith.
What worked? What worked for you?
I have mine like listed in the generalities into specifics.
Okay.
What do you want to...
Let's start with general. Let's get...
Liked all the actors. They were great. I thought they were
Hey, you know
fun.
what? I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
I never thought to myself, like, something I often think, especially in that Insidious type world, of just like, I'm rolling my eyes because I'm like, God, you're just acting and saying lines. And
I wonder if, like, just by not knowing the language, the dialogue wasn't... What if it was actually as egregious as those films?
Yeah, hard. That's an interesting thought. It's hard to know. But I remember thinking quite a number of times the lead sister, Rini, I was just like, you're really good. Like, you're really compelling, and I believe you as like a human.
The kids, too, as far as kid actors?
Yeah. I think at first I was worried that Bondi was...
Bondi's the 10-year-old,
yeah.
Ian's the 6-year-old.
That my first thought, I think, was just based on his look, was he was going to be kind of an annoying kid actor.
Yeah.
But no, he's good. It's not that he's that kid actor thing, it's just he's a 10-year-old.
Yeah.
And he's good at it.
I really bought them as a family by the end of it, too.
Yeah.
I liked it.
Yeah, I agree. That's probably the only glue that's holding this movie together in a way. So it, that ensemble feel and that sort of cohesiveness to them is good.
That was one of the things that kept me going
Yeah.
and made me just want to keep watching it, which I can't say the same about the last two Paranormal Activity films. Which, actually, I cheated too with Ghost Dimension. When it got to be about like 40 minutes an hour through, I switched it to 1.25 speed.
Amazing.
Which I hate in theory doing. I'm like, well, then how could you ever like it? I'm like, well, I already hated it.
I think that you have been possessed by Paranormal Activity.
Oh, after my night terror that I mentioned?
Yep. And now you can't stop thinking and talking about it.
No, actually, I really didn't want to watch this last one last night, but I'm like, if you're going to do it, which you are, just get it done.
True.
I'm like, look, all these other movies on my list I want to watch. No, I don't want this hanging over me. Let's be done with the paranormal activities. I thought the house in Satan's Slaves was a really neat setting.
Yeah, the setting all around to me, and the kind of look and coloring and cinematicness of it, I was really into.
It's like in the jungle, they're by a cemetery, the house has character.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
And it was a real house they found.
And they do a good job of cutting, to just shots of the house in between scenes in a way that just makes you go, oh, right, this is where I am. I think sometimes you lose that with certain films. Like, they forget to maintain a sense of establishment of where you are and what's the tonality of what's happening. And doing that with this isolated house kind of in, up on the side of a hill, it like recenters you of like, right.
Yeah.
Here we are.
Just another good example of house as character. And it's interesting,
I like
too.
the architecture. The internal architecture of that house is really cool.
Yeah.
And it's serving the movie.
In what way?
Well, there's that weird center of the house stairwell, which is actually its own room in a way. You can be in that stairwell area, and at one point, there are 2 doors to that stairwell. And both of them will close, and everybody's trapped in there. And it's its own kind of like, it's like I think the architecture is that's the actual center of the house.
Yeah.
It's like what would you call that? Like a cylinder in the middle of the house. And then there are rooms kind of circling that. And there's just something, I don't know, there's something cool and eerie about it.
Yeah.
May just be that we're not used to that architecture.
Thought what was cool and eerie about it overall, not just the architecture, but the emotional impression it had was like you could feel the sort of nostalgia and good times of the better times there. You could feel how it was sort of an important place for the family and came through, but you also felt that, it wasn't being upkeeped as well as they probably would have liked.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it was just an interesting middle ground of sort of serving a lot of functions, just sort of in itself, how it felt.
Yeah, well, and that, the art design of having everything really lived in and really like just on the other side of neglected,
right,
is nice.
And
like,
now
it's
I'm curious,
dirty.
what was art design and what was just the house?
yeah, exactly. Who knows?
We already kind of talked about just the setting was neat, just that it was Indonesia, 1981. It's different for me. Cool.
Yeah.
With all the classic things of set in a film then, no cell phones, no technology,
right.
Yeah.
What else? Broad things. Big things.
The bell device.
Yes, that's on my list for sure.
Which was the mother who's passing away. I don't think I had really quite seen that before. I feel like maybe there's one 70s movie I'm overlooking that had something similar. But as far as like having someone in their life who's calling for help with a bell as they're sick, and then that translating to their ghost self or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, was that the bell ring? Which is just so easy in a good way,
Yeah. Yeah, it's a fun device, and you can do a lot with it, and they do a fair amount of good stuff.
Yeah, well, like that was one of the main, like used well with where he's listening to music and hears it and thinks it's maybe part of the music, but it isn't.
Right.
All the ghost makeup at the end, or whatever you want to call them, the risen from the dead, like...
Okay.
You're making faces.
I'm making a face.
So I'll put it as I don't want to slip into what didn't work, but none of this was scary. This was the kind of film where it's the same way I enjoyed the key demon design of Insidious 4.
Okay. I can see where
fun
you're at.
and cool.
Okay.
Just as like in a sort of fun house, scare house kind of way. Here are the ghosts. Look at them. They're like super pale and, quote unquote scary looking. Yep. In that kind of fun way.
Let's see, what else? I think, this is sort of a passive compliment in that I didn't feel like I was noticing the film making in this, which I think is a good thing. Insofar as like the filmmakers were able to kind of set a world up and just let you be in it without being like, hey, look at what good filmmakers we are, or like what cool stuff we can do. Well, so there's a nice I think it was just really well balanced of like, we're watching this story, we're not trying to do cool crazy shit.
Well, to now transition to more specific things, since that's a good segue, there were two moments that I thought were, I don't want to say I noticed the filmmaking, but they did something just shot-wise that I thought was effective. The first one was somewhere in the middle. There, it was like they went from one canted angle and like rotated across to another canted perspective,
okay,
in camera, in shot.
Yeah.
And I was like,
I'm trying
I
to
can't
remember
really think
where
when
that was.
it was in the living room. I think it was maybe daytime. I forget the exact moment, but that was interesting. And then this was my this was like one of my favorite, I think this might be my favorite part of the movie, Tim, but it was like so subtle and at the beginning, but really effective. This is where I thought it could have been going in a direction where it was a much, much better film because of just this moment. But it was, I think, the first time they go up to the mother's room and she's looking up towards the ceiling in fear.
Yeah.
And like the camera just sort of tilts up, and shows the area of the ceiling, and then we sort of cut back to it.
Yeah.
There's something super effective and eerie, I thought, of just like showing an empty space and giving that attention.
Well, yeah, and my thought was, I don't know where to look, and I think that's actually good. Like, that is an effective tool, especially early on, where you just give a sort of a palette of a thing, and there was a lot to look at, right?
Well, like, it was a specific area. It wasn't like a whole room.
But
it was...
Yes, but in that shot, there's the window. There's like sort of the, what would you call that?
It's sort of like
outcropping of the wall, and then there's the ceiling, and there's sort of the corner of the ceiling. And I like scanned the whole thing a few times, trying to be like, what am I gonna see? But that, leaving it without actually telling you what you are going to see or what you should see is creating this sense of like uncertainty, which is a good priming type thing, I think, early on. So I really like that shot because it's like, it's not like, oh, and then a thing like flitted through the shot. You know what I mean? Or like
which
something
is so
moved.
The opposite of the rest of the movie, talking about subtle versus not subtle.
Exactly.
Maybe we're saying the same thing about the moment, but it wasn't so much that I was scanning for something that wasn't there. I instantly went, I guess my scan happened almost instantly. It was just like, I'm looking at something I can't see, which sounds weird.
No, I get what you're saying. Yeah. The effect of the mother looking into space is telling us she's seeing something and we can't see it. And that's an effective tool too.
The daughter looking up.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I'm sure we've seen plenty and is kind of like a go-to, but well done and well placed.
Yeah, I agree.
Those were the two sort of standout shots for me.
There's one other crawly shot through the hallway, and I think it just looks good. I think they do it a couple times actually, but whenever you've got a slightly wider lens and you're in a hallway and it gives it this sort of almost distorted creepiness, it always reminds me of sort of the Hitchcock thing or the Poltergeist thing. It's not doing the push pull.
It was just a sort of close to ground. What was it?
Yep. Yeah, exactly. It's just you're crawling fairly low and you're moving slowly through that hallway, and the hallway's got this sort of green tint to it, and the way light is coming through the door at the end of the hall. It just was a pretty well executed shot, and they did it a couple times, and I like it.
This was, I guess, maybe somewhere between a generality and a specific. But I think I had under generality. But it was just the like learning about the lore was fun and
Yeah.
interesting. And granted, it happened pretty late in the film, but when it did finally happen, it made me perk up a bit. Like, I think that was a really, and I guess a specific thing about it was the lore was that it wasn't that it was like, it made a point that these weren't ghosts coming back or anything that sort of had any resemblance to the original person, but that they were more just sort of an other entity or thing taking the form or body of a person.
Right. Yeah.
It's like these were the Satan slaves, I guess. I don't know.
I guess.
Or was it the actual people who were the Satan slaves?
Well,
I don't know.
That's an
Anyways,
interesting thought.
but-
There's a couple things of,
But you know what I
there are
mean?
a couple questions that are created.
But wasn't it fun learning about
But
it
I
in that
like,
aspect?
yeah, I like the information getting doled out, and I wonder if it would have helped the movie if the trickle of information had been a little more consistent earlier. I don't know.
We can get into that.
Yeah. But yeah, once you're starting to get it and you're getting these like, oh, it's this. The movie kind of takes off.
Yeah. And I mean, that's sort of like why I'd watch those other Paranormal Activity films and what I enjoyed about the Insidious movie.
Connecting the dots is fun.
Well, it was just learning what the story is.
Right.
Yeah.
Actually having a story.
Yeah. It's
So-
the yarn of it.
Right.
I liked that the little boy, I mean, sort of what you said, maybe sounded more forward, but it was sort of a twist learning that it was the little boy who was the main Satan slave or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Or, I mean, he took the side of the baddies by the end. And I didn't quite follow how that shift occurred, but I liked it that he was, when the boy turned all weird and creepy at the end.
Yeah.
And just that as a twist, like I liked him, and he's funny. He was picking his nose and stuff, and had a funny rapport with the rest of the family.
Yep.
And I bought him as the rest of the family, so it worked for me as a twist that he was part of the plot and given away.
Yeah.
How about? I know one of your favorite parts, Tim.
Do you want to get? I was gonna say you want to get into some specifics.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, what's the guy's name? Hendra? Yeah, Hendra.
The motor, say it with me.
The
motorcycle
kill
crash.
is so good.
You said kill, I said crash.
It's so good. It's so good.
It had like...
Why isn't that... I want the whole movie to be that.
It had like those 3 extra sort of shots or beats just to make it that much more... what would you say?
Awesome?
Yeah. I don't want to say it because it's horrific, but yeah.
Well, awesome in the technical definition of it.
Well, it had multiple times where we'd go, oh!
Yeah.
Sort of worked in succession that way.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. In that moment is so fucking solid to me. But the movie has like 5 or 6 pretty solid like beat moments.
Yeah.
What is the shit? Now I'm forgetting what they are.
Well, how about just anything else about the crash? Because we'll just keep getting into more specifics.
Well, the crash, yes, everything about it is good. You kind of see it coming. You know something's going to happen, but fuck, dude.
What were the beats again? It was...
shit. How does it start?
He gets stuck underneath it and dragged a bit under the wheel.
Well, yeah.
That was the sort of extra gruesome beat, right?
Yeah, but what causes him to veer off? Yeah, like he looks at something, and now I don't remember what it was.
But as far as just the sort of once
he looks
gets
away
hit.
and he's veered essentially across the lane into oncoming traffic, and a truck hits him and catches him under. He just goes flopping underneath.
Yeah.
But then he gets caught underneath.
Yep.
And there's a shot of him being dragged underneath, but his face is on the pavement, like he's sort of face down.
Yeah.
And it is ripping, pavement is ripping his face like apart. And then he dislodges and the back wheel runs over his head and we just get a splash of blood onto the camera.
Right. That's all.
It is pretty.
Tim, that's all. I
fucking
just wanted to
intense.
relive it a bit. That's all I wanted. We can move on.
Yep. I guess what I'm saying is there's a handful of moments that I sort of was like, oh, or like, ah, but they only live, the excitement of them only lived in sort of isolated in the moment. It didn't carry through for me.
Yeah, like,
So-
I think one of those moments, maybe that was more of a sort of what this movie encapsulates moments, a sort of in your face scary stuff happening was, but this was the one I mentioned in the section, things that worked, because this was like a Conjuring-esque moment, but one that I could actually sort of get on board with the fun with, was when she was using her, I looked it up, it was called practicing Sala in her mukina.
Oh, right, yes.
Which is a kind of prayer thing.
Yes.
You know, trying to make up for not praying enough, I guess. And the ghost figure appears and is sort of underneath the sheet with her, and she can't really get out of it.
Yeah.
That was the stupid kind of fun that I did enjoy.
That's exactly it. So in isolation, that moment is fun and exciting, and like, you know, it makes me sort of smile and go, "Ooh, shit!" So yes, I'm commending those singular moments.
Yeah. A moment I liked, or device I liked, was really fun. So if you have this, a woman who's an ex-pop star who has these hit records, it was really cool.
Yes.
And it takes place in 1981. Yeah, have it. So the daughter discovers underneath the label of the record, there's a secret groove that when played backwards is whatever.
It was ancient chanting.
Yeah, right. As the subtitle said, ancient chanting.
I
that was
love,
fun. Yeah.
See, that's the type of stuff that I really fucking love. And I want this movie to be more kind of about and like looking into that. And I think it's just because it's my taste of like, I love the mystery. I love the like trying to solve it, the connecting of the dots, like I said, the sort of, I prefer a trickle of information that has, you know, it has some misdirects and it sort of winds you around. It's just sort of that standard mystery construct. I love that shit. And so when you put, you know, Satan lore or devil worship lore on top of that, I'm really excited. It just, you know, so I like that stuff and I want more of that. And so this idea of like there's this hidden thing, like anytime there's a hidden thing and you find it, it's like, oh fuck yes.
Yeah.
I love that.
That was more potent possibilities of the what did I say?
Oh god, I don't remember the promise of
pursuing potent possibilities.
There you go.
Which that's my version of the promise of the premise, things that you can uniquely do to this film. And speaking of P words, I liked the priest guilting them for not praying.
So that, yes, I love that kind of construct of like, it's this general sort of shame thing.
Yeah, the priest was like, essentially it was like, oh, maybe you guys should have, if you had been praying more, none of this would have happened.
Yeah, exactly. It's just so... And the whole idea of like, if you were better people, maybe bad shit wouldn't happen to you.
Yeah. Thanks, guy.
Thanks.
He gets his comeuppance though, right?
Yeah.
What happens to him?
Well, his son gets fucking exploded, so that's one.
Right.
I think then he gets grabbed by the
he gets grabbed by some ghosties,
the undead sort of folks.
And more P words. I mentioned how it was like
yes.
Not what you're. I think.
No, probably not. But you made me remember one.
Okay. Because I was going to say, again, making the comparison to Poltergeist, I did have fun by the ending, which was why I used that comparison, of just the whole family kind of like, they're in the know of the situation, no one's in and out, and they're all having to work together. And you also kind of had those nice moments of, like the older kid, what are their names? Bondi. When Ian's getting like sucked away poltergeist style, like by the wind force.
Oh yeah.
And then Bondi's like, you know, what does he say to him? I think that's actually before that moment when Bondi's like, I love you, brother. Or one of them tells the other one, like, I love you. And it's sort of taking the direct advice from the priest of it's your love for each other that will help you get through this. So to see advice acknowledged and taken and then executed, which is normally after maybe coming off this Paranormal Activities movies too, which they never do. It was satisfying.
Yeah. So you made me think of, there's sort of a sequence that I really like of the kid, because just little kids are eerie, and middle of the night is eerie, and kids when they wake up in the middle of the night is eerie. And there's that whole sequence of Ian waking up and being like, I have to go to the bathroom. And Bondi's like, fucking deal with it. I'm not going with you. And then Ian goes to the bathroom, which we don't, I mean, I don't know that this is the thing, but Ian just peeing in the middle of the room with the well.
Right. And well, the way Bondi joined him, it made it seem like, this is just the pee room.
That's the pee room. Yeah. I mean, and also just that room is fucking super creepy. Mm-hmm. Like wells are creepy as fuck. Anyway, so them being in there and then going back into the hallway and seeing the picture on the wall of their mom, and that whole thing of taking the sheet and trying to throw it over the picture, which in and of itself doesn't make sense. Like, there's no chance you would be able to accomplish that, but whatever, it's a kid. He doesn't know any better. So he throws it, and then the sheet lands on a figure. That, I love shit like that.
Yeah.
Like, that moment is so good. And I also like this little thing that they do where when he throws it and the figure is there, Ian has closed his eyes this whole time. And Bondi sees it, and the figure kind of runs at them, and Bondi screams, and then Ian screams, and they both end up like huddled crying. And the sister comes running in and says like, what happened? And Ian is like, I don't know. I had my eyes closed. And there's something very weird and just cool, I think, about that sort of non-confirmation. It's like maybe it was all just in Bondi's head. So there's this trickiness
but the
to
style
it.
of this film, I don't think there was any question that this was in his head. I really took the moment as clearly this one kid saw it because his eyes were open, and clearly the other one didn't because he's lying or didn't see it.
No, I agree. I think what it does is it creates a little bit, and when we figure out later that Ian is is Satan's spawn kind of thing, there's it's just like a little preemptive character thing of he's not on our side. Almost. And I don't know if...
Yeah, it felt like he was trying to protect the anonymity of the ghostly presence.
Yes, and I think that's a nice little detail. But anyway, so that whole sequence was fun, I thought.
Speaking of the family all working together at the end, I liked how that included the spirit of the grandmother holding the door.
I very much like that.
Yeah.
Yes.
I liked how they acknowledged how the siblings looked different, which was something I thought of. And that was kind of fun within story. It's like, that's why we all look different. We have different fathers.
Did you ever think that maybe we all look different because we have different dads?
Yeah. Oh, no, but that makes sense.
Yep.
And then just some more maybe sort of cultural specificities. The scene of all the priesty older folk chanting after the funeral, was it saying there is no God but Allah, and in their language. That was just a neat thing to capture on film, I thought.
Yeah, and I like the funerals had a good eeriness to them. I mean, funerals in general, and that little lore thing of when you walk 40 steps, after the 40th step, the dead rise or something like that. It's just I like little weird lore, like myths that people kind of buy into.
And actually that was an example of, maybe this will be a good transition, but that was fun and happened toward the beginning, and maybe it was sort of a tease for more that didn't end up happening as far as more sort of lore-y bits to grasp onto.
Yeah.
Instead of just... Well, can we get into what didn't work?
Yeah,
All right,
sure.
What did not work?
Oh, shit. I have one more.
What, Tim? After my...
I know. I'm so sorry.
Well, no. Speak now, forever hold your peace. You're right.
The one I really like the poltergeist moment of the older brother in the radio, when he goes into the room, he hears the bell, he goes in the room, and the bell is just in midair and drops to the floor. That kind of poltergeist stuff is really pleasing to me.
Yeah.
But that's it.
Great. That was a cool moment. All right, say it with me now, Tim, since I already said it. What did not work?
It's not ready yet.
Seems to work okay.
No, something important's missing.
What did not work?
So to continue the kind of the thought I was having where it's like, oh, that would have been nice if that little bit of lore had kept up after that moment. But instead what we got was just utter repetitiveness. Repetition.
And yes, and that is super odd to me. There's a bunch of examples of this. Even the first time it's like really apparent, I think, is when the daughter wakes up, she hears the bell, she goes into her mom's room, her mom's still alive, and there's a figure with like a, what do you call that? Like
the veil?
The veil. And she goes and touches her shoulder, and then the bell rings, and her actual mom is still in the bed, and it's like, oh, and then she wakes up and does the exact same thing again. Mm-hmm. And we go through all the paces of that same moment, but now the mom is standing there without the veil, and she's not in the bed, and then she's dead.
And then at least what it feels like is just that essentially happens 8 more times, where it's just this.
Right.
This is a movie about going up into the mother's room, about hearing a bell.
Yeah, well, and exactly. So then the radio one. They do the same thing where he does it twice, right? Like he turns the radio on, he hears the bell, he turns the radio off, he hears the bell, he goes into the room, he sees the bell falls, and then he goes back to it. He's like, goes back to his room, turns his radio back on, hears the bell, turns the radio off, hears the bell, and then the mom's in his room with him, and it's like, Right. And it's just this. I don't know, like. It's, I guess, trying to kind of pad out the suspense and the eeriness.
Well, I think it was that's where it feels like the worst of sort of those Conjuring type movies.
Yeah.
Is where they give they put all the weight on the shoulders of just sort of as if these moments just in themselves are what it's all about and hold their own. But it's sort of en masse that actually detracts from themselves.
Well, and
you know what I mean?
Because every single one of them just ends with a whip pan or the appearance of a ghostly figure
set
with
to loud stinging music.
Yes, it got. I mean, I could be okay with the first one.
Yeah.
And then never see it again.
Yeah.
But it's every fucking scene, and it's just like I mean, this is also I think what I was saying at the top, like. It lulled me into wanting to just sleep through the fucking movie.
Right, me too.
I just was like, okay. I
know, it got so boring by like a quarter through. Which is interesting because it's not, because I want to say, oh yeah, all it was just stuff happening. But it's that, there are other movies where it feels like it's just stuff happening, but it works. Mm-hmm. So I was just trying to make the distinction. So it's like there's, like to take a good example, Poltergeist, you have a clear progression of events as well as grounded by, good performances and
definitely
all that other stuff. And then there's like to compare the previous film that is just in my mind because I loved it so much, Calvaire, where I use that as an example of like by having less stuff happen, you give a lot more weight to the things that do happen, even if they don't sort of seem like big things. But just for example, like, you say, oh, and then the kid hears this on the radio. Imagine if that was just one of the few things versus being so just captured in a slew of similar moments.
Yeah. Here's what it makes me think of. Do you remember there was a YouTube short? It's probably a 3 or 4 minute long short. I'm sure you remember this. So it was called Lights Out, and then
if you're going to say that.
So they subsequently made a movie out of it, and the movie is not good. Like it does not accomplish sort of, and it's not executed in the skillful way that the short is, for I'm sure lots of reasons. Actually, there's a good video essay on why it doesn't. The feature doesn't work versus the short, but whatever. Look it up. So the short is this, it's this contained thing where you're setting up an idea of eeriness and you have the person sort of get up and check like, what's that? And then you flip the light on and off and you see the thing and blah, blah, blah. And then you get in bed and then you end with the big bang stinger of like, woo, it's a scare. And then it's out and we're done. That construct only works in shorts.
Yeah.
You cannot just have a movie that's one of those after another. It's not a movie. It's a sequence of shorts.
Yeah.
And trying to thread that together into a broader story, although, is a nice attempt at something, it doesn't fucking work. Even with the story threads that they put in there, if your whole way of executing moments is this contained thing, it just doesn't work. It's like you said, there's no progression to it. It's like watching a bunch of commercials over and over again almost. And I just fuck, it bums me out because there's a lot kind of going for this movie.
Yeah.
And I think if you eliminated the idea that that's what's scary or that's the way to execute scariness and actually just told the story, almost forget about even having scares in this movie. If you told the baseline root of what this story is,
right, and what do you need to tell the story, baseline minimum,
yes,
like
I would be able to get into that more.
Yeah,
but this is just
like Hereditary did.
Sure. Yes.
As a recent example.
I mean, yes, that's exactly it. That's how you do this well.
Which is sad. I mean, I wish this filmmaker, it was like, I'm sure he made it, along with or before Hereditary, but it's like, I wish those movies were his inspiration versus feeling like maybe to appeal to Western audiences, he had to make them like a Blumhouse movie.
So I think that is the clear grand failing of this movie, is that the idea of what is scary and how to execute that for an audience is based on a thing that you and I patently do not like.
I'm hoping, if people listen to this, tell us if you're a fan of the kind of movies we're haranguing right now.
But that's the thing, is there's so many people who are like, oh, I love the Insidious films and I love the Conjuring films.
Yeah. And if there's something we are just missing, or if you just want us to read something on air that's just not our perspective, or not, or you just want to share it with us, but we will read on air if you want us, or we would like to.
Yeah.
Please, we are happy to put that perspective to counter ours up there.
Yeah, it is almost like, it's almost unfortunate that we agree, because we can't get quite a...
Because it is feel like a very clear delineation of horror fans nowadays, is you like those kinds of movies or you don't.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know.
And my question I kept coming back to, that I've asked before, is, well, is it time that hasn't gone by yet? Or why is it that I can enjoy the Friday the 13th, which are just as stupid, but not, Insidious 4 the same way? Like, why am I forgiving to those, but not these? And I think it could just be caught up that it's like those exist as just things that have been made that are a product of their time, versus now maybe, we're trying to be in the same boat here as filmmakers, kind of stirs up the anxiety of like, but just do it this way. And then I want it this way. I think
there's definitely, that's some of it. But I also, that's an interesting question. Ooh, I think some of it, the difference between those movies and this movie, or the Conjuring movies, is that there's a what's the word? Sort of, what is it? It's kind of, it's a self-awareness thing, I think. I think the Friday 13th and the, what are the other ones? The Halloweens and the sort of that era. I think they kind of know what they are, and they're okay with it. They're aware of this thing, and they're not. It feels to me like The Conjuring and Insidious and this are taking themselves too seriously in a way. Where they're not, it doesn't feel fun, I guess. I think that's part of the issue. If you're going to make this movie that is just a bunch of scares, can we have fun with it?
Yeah. You're
Because
right. There's
this
overriding
just-
self-seriousness. to
Yeah.
it.
I think that's part of the problem, whereas like you can watch Freddy and it's kind of, you know, we're cheering him on.
It's ridiculous in the best of ways.
Yeah. And that
It is a good tonal balance.
yeah, we're not getting that with this. It's like there's moments where I'm like, this could be really dark and creepy, and it feels like they weren't willing to go really down that path. And then I'm like, okay, well, let's go in the other direction. Like, let's make it kind of campy and like lean in on the fact that like big creepy nailed hands are like coming through a door and pulling it open. Like, let's do something with that. But they just kind of middle on it. And it's like, bleh, okay, I guess that was scary, but not really.
Yeah.
It had potential. So I think that, you know,
That's actually, yeah.
that's what bums me out almost.
I
I'm
agree
like,
with
fuck.
that.
Even like Evil Dead, or more so Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness, like the design is creepy and fucking, you know, there's some good gore in it and whatever, but they are very aware of what they are.
Yeah.
Like their camp, we're gonna push on that and be funny and over the top, and I think it to really good success in that example. Like that's pushing it, making a choice and pushing it all the way to one end of the spectrum.
Which are different though from the Friday the 13th, but I see
Totally.
what you're...
No, totally.
Because
But
like,
I'm
I
just
don't
saying,
think this film should have an obligation to be campy.
No. What I'm saying is you've made a choice, and it's a clear choice, and you're saying, I'm going to be over here in this lane, as opposed to this general middle of the road.
Yeah, well, this
like, I
feels
hope
like-
this appeals to some people.
It's hard
maybe
because
a
it
lot,
does...
whatever.
Because it feels like their approach is, okay, well, in order to make this scary, you just have to do these jump scare moments.
Right.
So it's like, all we have to do is just tell this story and then insert these jump scare moments. But then I guess the unfortunate thing is that does work for enough people that it perpetuates.
It does. Which is a whole nother conversation, I think, in a way, right?
Maybe we should... Is there anything else that did not work for us?
Okay, so the big overarching thing, which I kind of was trying to avoid saying in what did work, is this mumbo jumbo, I think is what I got. This sort of double mumbo jumbo, which is what is that? That's the save the cat term.
Yes.
So what it means is that it's this confusion, even like we had a little bit with Paranormal Activity. It's like, what is this movie? Is it ghosts? Is it demons? Is it Satan? Is it Satan worshippers? Is it zombies? Like suddenly we have zombies.
Right. But
you
at
know,
the same
red
time, that can
beads.
be, you got to make the distinction, because I could say that with a different inflection of like, oh yeah, it was so good. It was so creepy. Like the wailing. I didn't know if it was this going on, or I didn't know if it was this going on.
I know what you mean, but the wailing sits in its own lane.
No, I mean, I agree with you. I'm just trying to get you to make the distinction.
I know, and so why is it? I think the question I have is, why does it feel like arbitrary? It's like, I think what it is somebody said, you know what else would be cool? A bunch of times.
I think it's a matter of it's about having its own inner logic that's solid, that we will sort of almost subconsciously pick up on or is imbued. You know, like the first Paranormal Activity, the ending of how the picture with the flamed edges appears, the burnt edges appears, and it just sort of throws up all these questions of just like, logic is out the window in a scary way as far as the paranormal supernatural rules we don't have an understanding of how it works, how it could have gotten there. But it clearly, because it's just saying, well, here it is, that is its own rule that doesn't sort of contradict any other anything else we've picked up on.
Yeah. I think, yeah. that lives in a nice place of sort of singularity. Whereas I think this has too many of those, and that's where it just falls apart and becomes too murky. I could get behind it if it was like it's like the conceit. What's the conceit? The one conceit is that Satan, that this is not the mom haunting them. It's Satan or demons appearing as the mom. And that conceit, I can get behind him. Kind of, it creates these questions. And even if the Satan worshippers show up, that's still a thread to this question.
Right.
And I don't need it answered. And I'm okay with that. But then when you go, but also, the Satan worshippers have these beads. And also, these beads make the dead come alive. And those aren't actually zombies. They're demonically possessed zombies because of Satan worship. It's like, I'm like down off, into
which is like Hereditary
of, like,
Hereditary was as simple as just, okay, this sort of cultists, Satan worshippers are using this demon for their own whatever. It was basically, I heard the director put it as, it was just a whatever, it was just a whatever sacrifice movie from the perspective of the lamb.
Yes,
and
that's great.
And it's just those simple enough outlining, simple, like what they are doing is simple, in such a way that you never have to be explicit about it.
Right, and I am not saying that you have to explain everything.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm saying do less in a way, because you get caught up. I think that's what the guy, was it Pressfield who wrote Save the Cat? I don't remember. That's what he's getting at in saying, like, don't stack broad things on top of each other too much, because then we kind of lose track of what we're supposed to hang on to. Pressfield, isn't it Stephen Pressfield?
It's Sid Field.
Oh, no. Sid Field is a totally different guy.
Oh.
That's the guy who did screenplay.
Yeah.
But so his example in one of the books.
It's not Pressfield. That's all I was smiling. And now that you've said it, I can't actually remember it.
I know I can't either. But his example in the book is the movie Signs. Do you remember Signs?
Of course, that was huge.
Right. His point is, like, in Signs, you've got kind of two big things going on that almost get in each other's way. I could actually personally argue the other side of this, but just for the sake of
and
this.
It was Blake Snyder, Tim.
Thank you. Pressfield, I think, wrote The War of Art, which is a cool book. Anyway, so Blake Snyder. So he's arguing that in Signs, it's aliens, but it's also God, right? And those two big themes kind of get in each other's way. And so, like, to be careful of...
And fate of, like, her having to drink all the water.
Exactly. And, like, how does that have to do with aliens? And, like, if aliens exist, that creates a whole nother conversation about whether or not God exists. And so he's like, you're kind of fucking yourself. But I feel like this is doing kind of the same thing, where it's like, I don't know what to hang on to because they're giving us too many things. For example, there's a mom ghost, but it's not really the mom. But there is a grandma ghost, and it really is the grandma, right? And so I'm already kind of like, well, where are we? Because what world are we living
in? Like what we said earlier,
rules?
Wait, are the Satan slaves the people, humans working for Satan, or are they the
are they the zombies that came
undead?
Yeah. So that kind of messiness, really fucking. I think ultimately it adds to this feeling that we left the movie with, where we both were like, God, we're really tired.
Yeah,
because it's like it's almost work to fucking try and stay with it, to stay connected to what the fuck's going on.
It's like, wait, why is the kid bad if the little kid was just yelling, we have to love each other?
That's right.
And why is he, when did the shift happen where he was evil? Wait, what? Is he choosing to be evil, or is he possessed now?
Yeah, that's too much. So I think that's ultimately, for me, that's the big failing on a very...
It's sort of, maybe it's the distinction, maybe this doesn't make any sense, but raising questions, the distinction between raising questions that feel like they should have some sort of possibilities to them versus raising unanswerable questions.
Right.
Which in a good way, you know.
Right, exactly. Yeah. It's almost like the difference between answerable and existential questions.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's funny. I have in What Did Not Work for me that exact thing I just said. Wait, when did that transition happen?
Oh, nice.
or Ian? A specific moment that bugged me, like where even though it was kind of cool to see Ian getting like poltergeisted, blown back and sucked to the evil presence. Bondi, it took you way too long, buddy, to save him. It was like it felt like it actually was on sort of borderline what would be in like a scary movie or Naked Gun type movie, where how long he was hanging on to, you could see like he kept letting go a couple times and it wasn't being flown back. Or it just seemed like that effect was just squeezed well past its.
Yeah, I felt the same way.
Okay, 3 minutes later, now I work up the courage to go save you.
I mean, here's a tip. If in the shot where Ian is hanging on for dear life and being sucked away, if he lets go by accident, take that opportunity to cut away to Bondi and see that Bondi is struggling with his internal, you know, whatever crisis to what save or not save.
Yeah.
Like, maybe not leave the shot in where Ian just completely lets go and is floating. That's what's
interesting is like, why were they so desperate to make it as long as it was?
I don't know.
It wasn't working.
No.
Was it just because it looked cool?
Well, it looks a lot less cool when he lets go.
That's my point. It's like...
Yeah, it was weird.
Are you good on this section? What did not work?
I have one last one that, like, again, circles us back to the Insidious stuff. You had said you liked the makeup thing. The second I saw that like ghost makeup, I'm like, it's makeup.
I think it was,
and that's one of the critical things design wise that I hated about the first whatever Insidious. I forget which ones I watched. The first one for sure, where like in the whatever it's called, I don't know, the other place,
the other realm, dimension.
I'm sure it has a name.
The ghost dimension,
maybe. You know, everybody's just got strict like stage makeup on, and I just, as a design choice, I don't like it. And then when it popped up in this, I was like, no, I'm out. Let me take a 30-second nap.
Yep.
So that's it for me.
Got it. All right, things of note.
Things of note.
This should be interesting.
It's a pretty unique case that it was a prequel and a remake.
That, I think, is the most interesting thing about this. And I want to see the fucking original.
Yeah, Satan's Slave.
Singular.
Yes.
Yep.
Versus this was Satan's Slaves. So
and
was it a movie from 1980 something itself?
1980 that one came out.
So that's interesting.
So why did they... If this one we just watched, too many questions.
You see why I thought this was made in the 70s or took place in the 70s?
So if the one that we just watched was set in 81 but is a prequel to the one that was filmed that came out in 80, does that mean that the original was set after 81? What is happening?
Presumably. But you know, actually, it just came to mind the other time this has happened that I can think of is the Thing that came out with Mary Elizabeth Winstead was a prequel and a remake.
Ugh.
But I know it just made me think, we had watched that instead, the original Satan's Slave.
Yes, definitely. And anytime you have to ask that question or you're confused, that's a fucking problem. Like, make a decision. Did it come before or after?
Yeah.
Like, you could just decide. It's carelessness.
What was interesting, this is at the end of the description of it, it was like, for those, if you are a fan of the original, remember the ending that was like, there's another couple that they're now living next to.
Right.
So, the Wikipedia, the neighbor, you know, after giving them the food returns to her apartment and talks to Batara, and it's revealed that she is Darmina, who was the antagonist of the original film.
Okay, so that's why we kind of left it going like, okay.
Yeah, that's why we were like, whatever. But if you're a fan of the original... Actually, I did kind of like that ending of just, I don't know, they're just still screwed no matter where they go.
Yeah, I like that.
But yeah, if you did see the original, it's fun that they made a direct link versus then just sort of saying like, oh yeah, you know... Like, if you're going to make it a prequel, put in some sort of direct connection. That's, for us horror fans, that's what's fun.
Yeah.
Oh, it's Darmina!
Oh, shit!
Yeah.
Darmina's back!
Exactly.
Didn't see that coming!
No, we certainly didn't.
I don't have really anything. I don't know. I mean, that's the big thing.
Anything else on that topic when you were like, I think that's a bigger question? What were we talking about? Of the distinction between...
Between what?
Like the Friday the 13th and this. I think...
fuck. What was I saying? Shit. That is a bigger conversation about... Oh my God, I don't know.
Well, that's fine, because we talked about it in depth enough.
Maybe I'll
But
think
if it's
of it.
something... I mean, it's a question I like bringing up, so if there is a way to dive even further off the diving board with that, well, let's come back to it.
Oh, wasn't it about, like, why do people like the Insidiouses and the...
I mean, yeah, that was what we were...
Yeah.
But
I don't know.
You were going to make some other point about it, but...
Yeah.
I'm going to move on to... Well, yeah, is that it for Satan's Slaves, then? Should we put a bow on it and move to...
I have one thing.
Mm-hmm.
This is not really related to Satan's Slaves. So, but it is, I guess, sort of a thing of note. It's a question because we've been talking about, we still are, you know, you're still possessed by Paranormal Activity.
Yep.
And so it keeps coming up. So I have a question. I'm going to posit a question.
Okay.
Paranormal Activity and this movie are about Satan. And I think both that franchise and this movie pay some homage to Poltergeist, specifically. In Poltergeist was directed by who?
Tobe Hooper.
Tobe Hooper. Do you think that the Toby in Paranormal Activity is a nod to Tobe Hooper?
It's a possibility, but I want to say, just because, you know, in the end, I'm not... It's hard because these are the kinds of films where when I read that they're actually fans of these directors and movies, it surprises me. It sounds so, you know? Like if Satan's Slaves filmmaker was like, oh, you know, Rosemary's Baby was my main influence, versus if the Hereditary director says that, you know?
Right. You'd be like, oh, you fucked up.
I want to say maybe. I'm sorry. I know it's in between.
It just occurs to me, like, why? That's such a random name. But I guess any name is random, so whatever.
Yeah.
But let's ask him. Let's tweet at Oren Pelly.
Sure.
Yeah?
Yeah, you mean right now?
No, I mean everybody out there listening.
Oh.
Just harass him.
No.
I'm
Stop
joking.
being mean to the guy. No,
I like him. I'm not.
Right.
I'm not. I'm just saying I want an answer. I want an answer. Definitive answer. Is Tobe Hooper.
Okay. Actually, yeah. There's a way to do that. But I mean, only if he doesn't respond to us being asked once. There's no reason to.
Yeah, once we have an answer,
we gotta know!
Guys, stop bothering him. What's your problem?
Okay, RecommenDEADtions.
Yes.
What can you recommend at us?
So yesterday on Netflix, I realized that the third season of Ash vs. the Evil Dead is on.
Yep.
And so I started it. And if you have not, first of all, if you like Army of Darkness and Evil Deads and you haven't seen Ash vs. the Evil Dead, you are fucking missing out. The first season of Ash vs. the Evil Dead is one of the greatest things I've ever seen. The second season of Ash vs. the Evil Dead has one of the singular grossest and greatest moments in all of film. And is necessary viewing. Third season remains to be seen by me. But I saw one episode, so I'm excited to watch the rest.
I've seen it all.
Oh, you did see it all?
Oh, yeah, man, Tim.
Okay, so the third season is worth it?
There was an Evil Dead TV show.
Yeah, but how did you watch it?
Me and my friend got the stars.
It was on Stars, that's right.
Just to watch it. That was it.
Yeah, I had it and then somehow didn't have it anymore and couldn't watch it, so I've been waiting.
Man, I forgot to come prepared with a recommendation, Tim, so I'm just like looking at what I've seen at all, and it's like, looking at my letterbox, I'm like,
personally,
most of these aren't good movies.
I could never relate to what you're going through right now.
Here's one. Here's one that I was, I keep coming back to as... Ooh, here's two, actually. Okay, I'll go with the one I was going to say. I loved, which, the Martin Scorsese movie, Silence, I did not like. I was bored.
I've heard the same thing from other people.
As far as other recent Scorsese movies, I think another one that's everything you want from a Scorsese movie, another right up there, one with the best of his, is The Wolf of Wall Street.
Okay.
It's a great movie.
I hate, rich guy mob movies.
But it's about how stupid they are.
I know, but I'm like, you're stupid. I don't want to watch you be stupid.
Got it.
This one, for me,
it more than the others pushed it into where Raging Bull, it's like, oh God, he's just beating his wife, and it's just horrible.
Yeah.
But the movie's still great.
I have seen the scene. I don't know if it's the scene, but my friend Shane showed me the
Quaaludes scene?
Yes, the Quaaludes scene.
Yeah, so that scene is
that it? That's it?
Yeah, that's it pushes... this movie is enough of rather...
It's pretty funny.
It did feel like maybe it was, that is a distinction between it and his other films, is rather than sort of... It's more obvious in the laughing at these people.
Okay.
It's way more overt.
I think what it is, I'm touchy about glorifying pieces of shit.
Yeah, well, it was hard because back when those films were made, it's like... people weren't as hip to these people being horrible people for being so narcissistic because they just want money and power and fame. Now that we're so hip to it, I think it was an example. Well, to me, as a historical example, because it's recent history to see this is where it's still happening. But anything that sort of documents that, I think, is important in a way. And luckily, Scorsese is someone who just, is amused by it all enough. He really shares that amusement with us in a fun way.
Yeah.
So it's a solid 3 hours. I recommend it.
Holy shit, it's 3 hours long?
Dude, it's a Scorsese movie.
Fuck that. I just watched Avengers Endgame. It's 3 hours long.
Yeah, it's as long as Avengers Endgame. So have you watched the last one I recommended, Tim, that I told you have to see? The I Saw the Devil?
No, I want to. I almost did the other day.
I'm just going to keep asking
and
you.
I couldn't, I forget why. I didn't have time.
Great.
I was like, I can't sit down
When
and do
you
this.
have the time, watch it.
Yeah.
All right. Let's pull. I think it's my turn for next week's film.
Hang on. Is it really?
Yeah, because you were excited last time, I remember.
Oh, yeah, and you pulled wrong turn.
Yeah.
Okay. Get a good one.
Inside, 2007.
Inside.
We both are like, wait, what's that?
I
Which
feel
one's that?
like
Have you seen
I
it?
remember
Who's listening?
reading about this and being very excited. Let me see.
It's a French movie.
Yes.
Great. Home invasion French movie. I
Yes.
don't want to know anything else.
How do we watch it?
Well, we have time, Tim. We don't need to use these people's time to figure out how we're going to watch
Oh,
it.
guys.
That's for off
But
air.
you all need to watch it. We need to tell you how.
Oh, they'll figure it out, too.
So here's my suggestion. Take out the interwebs and type in Inside.
It says right here, it's on iTunes. It's on Amazon Prime. It's on YouTube.
It's on everything. Cool.
Or your local video retailer.
Yeah. Yeah, support small businesses.
Yeah, man.
Cool, dude.
Yeah, we'll see you guys back next week for Inside. You can find us at Dismembering Horror gmail.com.
Yeah, you can email us too if you felt like it and tell us a story at dismemberinghorror@gmail.com.
Or why you love the Conjuring and Insidious movies.
Or if you want to suggest a movie to us.
That's the best.
That would be cool.
You want whatever we're bringing to these movies, you want to hear us gab on about some other movie, tell us, and we'll put it in this literal baseball cap that we pull from.
I feel like I could get really concise with how we do this. Ready? You can find us at dismemberinghorror@gmail. Our website and Instagram. Shit, there's a way to do that, but because all three of those are just dismembering horror. At Gmail and
.com
and Instagram, and then on Twitter we're at dishorrorpop.
Yeah. And you can find my portfolio website or more about me, which is linked from our website, but I'm at ryanmcduffie.com.
Yeah, and I'm on everything at Tim Aslin, just my name.
Cool. Well, thanks for being with us. We hope you can join us
for
the French film from 2007.
I can't wait to talk to all of you again next week.
Me too. And I can't wait to talk to you, Tim.
Oh, Ryan.
Next week.
I can't wait for us to touch fingers at the beginning of every show. Ugh, that sounds gross.
Until then, thanks for listening.
We'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye.